Hello everyone, I'm Santiago and today I'm gonna be testing Forza Horizon 4 demo on the Geforce GTX 750 Ti. I'll be doing 1080p, 900p, 720p and 1440p. To skip none of those sections of the video, check the timestamps down in the description. So first of all, I'll show you 1080p targeting 30 frames per second, which means I'll crank up the settings trying to stay over 30 frames per second all the time. In this case it's pretty much medium settings with textures on low. Due to the VRAM amount, we only have 2GB, but still the game seems to be using more than 2GB of VRAM, which means that the RAM usage takes over to fill in the gaps. Still, the game is completely playable. I didn't run into crashes in actual gameplay, but keep in mind that in the actual game it will probably use more than 8GB of system RAM, since it's compensating for the lack of VRAM. After that, on 1080p I'll just lower the settings to the minimum to see what frame rate we get. Some people just prefer smoother frame rates over visuals. On 1080p I overclocked the GTX 750 Ti. I added 200MHz to the core and 400MHz to the VRAM. The overclock is also applied at 1440p, but on 900p and 720p the overclock is completely disabled. Then on 900p and 720p I do exactly the same thing as on 1080p. I show you two configurations, one targeting 30 frames per second and the other one just with the lowest settings to see what's the maximum frame rate possible. And finally at 1440p, by using a mix between the lowest and low, I managed to stay over 30 frames per second most of the time. So if you prefer a higher resolution, you can do that just fine, but you have to lower the graphics significantly. Since this is not the final game, I'll just stick to the benchmark tool. It's very close to what you see on actual gameplay, it's very brief, so I can do many runs, and at the end of the footage you'll be able to see the average frame rate, the settings used, which I found very useful. Once the full game releases, I'll be doing a more in-depth video, so for now this is what I'm going to do. Benchmark tool, and so far in the options menu, to get better performance I had to lower many things in groups. We have a lot of options to choose, but again, in order to get a noticeable difference in performance you usually have to lower many things together. So first of all, the environment texture quality. If you have a 4GB of VRAM video card, use high. If you have 3GB, use medium or low, and if you have 2GB, just use low. There are other options that affect the VRAM, like the MSAA option and the world car level of detail, but here VRAM is very important, like on the previous Forza games. If you don't have enough, the game will be significantly slower, and the options that I will lower together to get a good boost in performance are shadows, dynamic geometry quality, static geometry quality, SSAO, reflection quality, SSR quality, which is screen space reflections. World car level of detail is very important. I recommend you always try to lower that one if you want better performance. And then the shader quality also made a big difference. Lower those together first and then you see how the frame rate goes. If that's not enough to get to your desired frame rate, lower them one option below once again, and then start lowering the options I didn't mention in groups. Another impact in performance is MSAA as usual. I recommend sticking to 2x MSAA at the very least, because the game has only FXAA on top of it, so you can see a lot of aliasing on the cards, which can be noticeable. But if you don't care about that, just turn off MSAA and you'll be getting a performance boost. Other than that, you have all the descriptions for each of the options at the right of the menu. Again, I'll be talking more about this once the final game releases, so stay tuned for that. Very important, make sure that your RAM is on dual channel. Dual channel was crucial on previous games, at least on my end. If you want to download this demo, there's a link down in the description. It's Windows 10 only, unfortunately, but yeah, that's pretty much it. I hope you keep enjoying the video, thanks for watching and see you next time.